Welcome back to the Combo Couch, everyone. Pasta Chardula here.
And I'm Fiorella.
Fam, do not laugh at me that way in front of all my peeps. Listen, I wore my red shirt today. I was told I was wearing a commie shirt, and it's like, I am not even a commie. Yeah, but your partner is, and you can be the commie cow. I'm like, yeah, but she's an anarcho-commie. She doesn't believe.
No, stop. No, I'm done.
Oh, you're done with the anarcho part?
Yeah.
You're going to let them own the language just because they're pissing you off?
Yeah. I mean, I still advocate for a decentralized form of it, but I just can't with the anarch. They're the ones literally just really just pissing me off these days. So
well, it's not all of them.
Except Keith McHenry.
Because Keith is amazing. And Keith has
Except Keith
Ian Davis is another one. You know what I'm saying? Like, listen, here's the thing. Like, Ian Davis is
I don't know
about
that. Like, just I don't know. This idea that Russia is just like the same thing as the US, and it's
that's
all
the libertarians is different than the.
That's not that's an anarchist type of view, because all states are bad, and so you hate every single state, right? And like, it's just like I just it's not reality right now. Reality right now is that there are states that are actually helping people, like the states of like, by state I mean countries like Nicaragua. They're helping their people as much as they can, and they're also trying to fight the Western Empire, particularly led by the United States. So I don't see how that is a bad thing. And even if we're ultimately, like when we discussed with Johnny yesterday, if we're ultimately heading in a certain direction, I don't think that everybody's just in accordance with it. Like, people are actually opposing this, and instead of like crying about how everybody is just completely part of the same plan, they're missing the part where actually there is real opposition here happening. And I just, it's really just really irritating, especially because a lot of it comes from people who have never gone on the ground to these places that they're talking about.
Yeah, it is this kind of American point of view that's just like, yeah, it's lacking a lot of nuance. Yeah. Just, you know what I'm saying? And there's somebody, I just made that tweet, and somebody's like, well, what are you saying? We shouldn't ask questions? No, you should. I'm not saying that you shouldn't ask questions. I'm saying that you should just go start your own shit if you don't like this one that's going on, and don't purposely come out there and try to tank it. Like, that's what you're showing me. I mean, yeah. Mm-hmm. So, sure, ask questions. But I asked you the biggest question: what's a bigger threat? Your feelings about one particular person that you don't agree with 100% on his ideology because you want to frame anti-war in your way? Or do you want to try and go and fucking bring some attention to stop World War III and total nuclear annihilation, right? And those other questions, right? I mean, maybe we need to get Vanessa back on. Maybe we should highlight the kid trafficking, the kid organ trafficking and stuff. Because if you're so concerned about children, maybe you should see to what's going on to the children out over there, and then you'll get a point of it. Like I say, you don't think that Russia should have invaded or whatever, go look at the people in the Donbass in their eyes, and then go visit the 14,000 graves, and then go.
But even if you think that they shouldn't have invaded, this is why we're going to hear his speech shortly. It was not unprovoked.
Yeah.
Okay. And that is my biggest issue. I
disagree there. I mean, despite, having Nazis on the border, NATO moving east, despite, them kind of just shunning the Minsk agreements. And then now we know from Naftali Bennett that they squashed any type of peace talk. No. But other than all those things right there, and I can name about 10 more that all the libertarians will agree with, he was unprovoked, fam.
Well, yeah. So this is literally just proves to you the libertarians, the right, the left, everybody, they get in their own way. And it's especially obvious in the United States right now. You know why? Because you have no idea what it's like to live under shelling, to live in a war zone in the United States. Unless you've come from another country where you did deal with that, you have no idea what that's like. You have no idea what people fear when they're living in these situations. And I'm not just saying that because I went to the Donbass one time. I'm saying it because my family did endure that sort of fear when in Peru. And of course, Peru now is, again, because a lot of this US interventionism, and they describe it in a certain way where it's just really hard to describe unless you've gone through it, and that's nothing compared to what people underwent in Syria and are still undergoing in Syria. What they've underwent in the Donbass for 9 years. What so many people in so many countries have undergone because of our interventionism. To equate all of what Europe and the United States has done to what you think Russia did, what Russia did when it was an empire back so long ago, is to me just ridiculous. Like, it's just not the same thing right now. It's really not. You can go back and look at history and see the Russian people literally revolted against the Russian Empire. They literally like threw everybody out and like killed a bunch of people because they were like, we're not going to have these imperialists ruling over us. That was what the Soviet Union was about. Like, we haven't done that in the United States. We haven't done that. The last time we supposedly revolted, it was during the American Revolution, where it was a bunch of people coming in, as you're told, right? When you're a child, they came in through the Mayflower and they did this, and they were running away, seeking religious freedom. It wasn't religious freedom. Mostly it was about economics, and that's what it was. And that's the reality. It was like, okay, this is an economic situation here, so we're gonna go and we're gonna settle here and literally exterminate everybody else. But okay, cool. And then in that whole situation, you have to come to terms with that. Okay, but as far as like people rebelling against it, it happened to a degree, of course, with the American Revolution, but it wasn't really full, because if you think about it, if you look at NATO, we're still this collective of NATO, and we're still this group of people that are still pretty much one giant little government. And that's exactly what that government wants to do. It wants to expand and take over everything else. And the countries that are saying, no, we want to be our own people, are being like vilified for doing that. And the reason I think we see it differently, Pasta, is because in Latin America, that's exactly all people want. That they literally just want national sovereignty. And Russians, they want that too. They want peace. Like, I have not met a single Russian that's like, fuck Ukrainians or this or that. Like, I haven't met that in like anybody. And it's not just political people, it's apolitical people, all kinds of people. And I just haven't seen that level of hate. But when you go online and you'll see like these people, the way they talk about these Russians, they want them gone, they want them dead. And I'm not saying it's all Ukrainians at all, but it is certain elements in that country that were historically
Nazis,
built on that fascist.
Nazis.
Yeah, but
I never heard a Russian say fucking Nazi. I mean, I'm sorry, guys, and I should tell that Russian, how dare you behave? Don't be violent. Words can be violent. That's terrible. And I hate this whole kind of like argument that, well, what would happen if we inside Mexico, what I'm saying, the Russians were fueling a bunch of people to bomb Americans that were living on the border inside Mexico. They would be nuked right away. Okay, but that means that Russia has to not defend its borders. It's a double standard. It's a double standard, and it's just ridiculous.
And they don't notice it. They don't notice that they still have this double standard.
Because it's just like a friggin' part of their ideology. And look, there are some friends of mine out there that I totally disagree with in the same shit that keep on saying Putin is a war criminal, Biden is a war criminal, trying to draw these parallels. And it's just like, guys, I'm not running out and trying to join the Russian freaking Communist Party over here, but recognize that the problem is our foreign policy. And at the end of the day, America wanted a war, and it was going to get its war. Are you going to tell these people that they can't defend themselves on the border? I mean, we cooed the fucking government, guys, and we've been doing this for a long, long time. So it's ridiculous. And if you honestly believe that the quickest way to peace is through a Russian victory, then how does that not make me anti-war when I want less You know what I'm saying? Because I understand that America wants regime change. They openly want regime change in freaking Russia. So drop the double standards. And if that's the way you feel, that's fine. Don't come after me for my opinion, right? And tell me that I'm anti-war.
You're not anti-war.
I'm pro-war. I'm sorry. I'm pro-war. Right. Okay. Fam, some quick unpacking because we got gifts. The Convo Couch did. I did. It says over here, this one was to Craig Jardula, right? And it's from Sprouts. I don't know is there a Sprouts in Russia, fam? Moscow got a Sprouts. It says, for the vegan and the carnivores, be well, my friends. And it's from Mac Walmartizan. So nobody, I don't know who it's from. I don't see any other letter in there, but this is awesome. I'm assuming this is for me and the fam over here, fam, because I can't get you anything in Russia.
It's okay.
But, the carnivores being Steve. Steve, Hunter, Ty, whatever you want. We got some Sprouts. I'll pick you up, whatever you want. Let me know. Thank you very much. A Sprouts gift certificate, man. That is so nice. I don't know who it's from, but thank you. Somebody from Minnesota.
Minnesota. Don't you know?
I got an address, but I don't know if that's from the Sprouts or that's the person. There's no letter, but thank you. That is nice. And then, fam, I got another letter. I don't have an address, so I don't know who it is. And here it is. And it's just a piece of paper with some cash in it. That I can send you, right, fam? I can do that. Thank you very much. And it just says, great work. And it was addressed to Pasta and Fee.
Oh,
great
thank
work.
you.
So thank you from the bottom of my heart. I haven't been thrown off the stage yet as a Russian agent. I'm still planning on going to D.C. to have a speech, and this is going to help. And I will send Fee her end so that she can go get a nice Moscow cocktail and enjoy, or, do something cool. Whatever. We always need the money. I hope pretty soon, fam, the same people who are calling for the finances are not going to start calling for our finances. And I'm saying, because that's always a possibility. People want to see the small independent outlets. They want to see their money. Who cares what all the government and CIA and all this other crazy money that's being spent? I want to see our finances. Got to keep us honest.
Yeah, mine's being used to pay any sort of outstanding debt I have in the States. That's literally it.
DC, I'm going to feature your saying here. It says, I love Sprouts. I love Sprouts too. I love you. And had I just listened to DC in the beginning about what was taking place over there. And
over where?
In the Libertarian Party. Maybe
I don't want to rag on it.
I don't want to rag on it.
Excuse me. Hello. Never mind.
Ma'am, you don't have faith in them. I get you, but that was like inside information. Listen, I'm not going to try to trash them. I still have this idea. I don't know if this idea is going to work. Yeah, I'm putting myself in the IRS cross.
I genuinely hope that they save it, because it would be a shame. It would be an ultimate shame if that rally doesn't go on, because one person from this group, another person from this group, and that are all crying about something so irrelevant. You want to go after Nick Brana and Jackson Hinkle? Sure, go after them. As soon as that rally's over, go. Seriously, please. But it is more important to hear the messages. Is everybody going to be an honest actor? No. But at the end of the day, you don't have the privilege right now to actually go with your checklist and see if everybody's of moral, a high moral value and attitude to be let into this rally, because that's just not how things work right now. And it's really, that's not the point. You know what I mean? And again, Scott Ritter too, if you want to go after him sure. But the fact is, the man should be allowed to speak. People should be allowed to speak. He was a UN chief weapons inspector. He went through a whole trial that literally, I don't understand. Are you going to rehash and become judge, jury, and executioner of these people? It's just, it's insane. Really. And again, people who are frauds will fall by the weight of their own actions. Eventually, people see through it. Eventually. And, that's just the way things are. And I think this is so much more important than somebody's feelings about a certain individual. So that's why I wanted to really do this. I didn't plan on doing a show today necessarily, but I will not be able to do one tomorrow. I don't know if you guys can tell, I'm like super congested. I don't know what it was. I'm not really sick. It's more of like an allergy or congestion or something.
Mm-hmm.
But so sorry if I sound weird. But I really wanted to bring this speech from Roger Waters, because Roger Waters, I don't agree with everything he says. I don't agree that this was, for example, he's going to say it was an illegal invasion, um, and that he condemns it. Okay, I don't agree with that, but I want everybody to hear his message of what how he's looking at this whole thing, because I think it's important. Roger Waters, to me, is very courageous for doing this, because he's not just an activist. He's not even a journalist. He's a celebrity, a rock star, right? And of course, his music really developed my understanding of the world a lot, and like my brain, and like really just kind of like woke me up in the good sense of the word that's been so maligned. Really just kind of, the Pink Floyd really woke a lot of people up. Okay. And the seeing how that aspect of the music really comes from the artist, this talk of peace, this exposure of the war machine, exposure of neoliberalism, I think it's important. I think it's important to highlight. I don't have to agree with every single thing Roger Waters is going to say, or every single thing he's ever said on Twitter, because I don't. But I do think it's important somebody of his caliber, in terms of an outsider, like as somebody that's in the entertainment industry, is able to do that, because he's on the list, the Ukraine kill list, and he's being lambasted by everybody for what he says, even though he's just basically calling for peace. He's not taking sides on this, really. He's not. And that's not even allowed either. So
Yeah.
I just want people to understand that, even if you try to stay neutral, which I don't think, I think neutrality is a choice. I think when you choose neutrality, you're making a choice either way. But in spite of that, he's getting so many hits after him. So
Yeah.
I think it does take courage.
Well, let's get it up, fam. How much of this do you want to watch before we pause it?
Um, I don't know. I mean, I
All right,
think
I'll
let's
let you.
we can
I'll let you take control. You say stop. You say that's. You know what I'm saying.
yeah,
And we
yeah.
go from there. Right.
Okay.
Okay.
All
Let's
right.
do that.
If you feel like you want to say something too, go
Cool.
ahead.
Absolutely. But I'm gonna. I know you've listened to this, so I'm gonna let you. You probably have a little bit more ideas, and I'll be able to piggyback off you. I heard about the speech, read about it, but that's it. We'll go from there.
Okay.
Here I am. Madam President, Excellencies, distinguished members of the Council, ladies and gentlemen, I feel profoundly honored to be afforded this singular opportunity to brief Your Excellencies today. With your forbearance, I shall endeavor to express what I believe to be the feelings of countless of our brothers and sisters all over the world, both here in New York and across the seas. I shall invite them into these hallowed halls to have their say. We are here to consider possibilities for peace in war-torn Ukraine, especially in light of the aforementioned increasing volume of weapons arriving in that unhappy country. Every morning when I sit down at my laptop, I think of our brothers and sisters in Ukraine and elsewhere who, through no fault of their own, find themselves in dire and often deadly circumstances. Over there, in Ukraine, they may be soldiers facing another deadly day at the front, or they may be mothers or fathers facing the awful question, how can I feed my child today? Or they may be civilians, not knowing that today the lights will go out for sure, as they always do in war zones, knowing that there is no fresh water, that there is no fuel for the stove, no blanket, just barbed wire and watchtowers and walls and enmity. Or they might be over here in a big, rich city like New York. Here, brothers and sisters can still find themselves in dire straits. Maybe, somehow, however hard they worked all their lives, they lost their footing on the slippery, tilting deck of the neoliberal capitalist ship we call life in the city and fell overboard to end up drowning. Maybe they got sick. Maybe they took out a student loan. Maybe they missed a payment. The margins are slim. Who knows? But now they live on the street in a pile of cardboard, maybe even within sight of this United Nations building. Anyway, wherever they are, all over the world, war zone or not, together they make up a majority, a voiceless majority. And today, I shall endeavor to speak for them. We, the people, wish to live. We wish to live in peace, in conditions of parity that give us the real opportunity to look after ourselves and our loved ones. We are hard workers, and we are ready to work hard. All we need is a fair crack of the whip. Maybe that's an unfortunate choice of idiom after 500 years of imperialism, colonialism, and slavery. Anyway, please help us. To help us, you may have to consider our predicament, and to do so, you may have to take your eye off the ball for a moment, to put your own goals momentarily to one side. What are your goals, by the way? And here maybe I direct my inquiries more to the 5 permanent members of this council. What are your goals? What is the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow? Bigger profits for war industries, more power globally, a bigger share of the global cake. Is Mother Earth a cake to be gobbled up? Does not a bigger share of the cake mean less for everyone else? What if today, in this place of safety, we were to look in another direction, to look at our capacity for empathy, for instance, to put ourselves in others' shoes, like right now, for instance, the shoes of that chap on the other side of this room, or even the shoes of the voiceless majority, if they have any shoes, that is. The voiceless majority is concerned that your wars, yes, your wars, for these perpetual wars are not of our choosing, that your wars will destroy the planet that is our home. And along with every other living thing, we will be sacrificed on the altar of 2 things: profits from the war to line the pockets of the very, very few, and the hegemonic march of some empire or other towards unipolar world domination. Please reassure us that that is not your vision, for there is no good outcome down that road. That road leads only to disaster. Everyone on that road has a red button in their briefcase. And the further we go down that road, the closer the itchy fingers get to that red button, and the closer we all get to Armageddon. Look across the room. At this level, we're all wearing the same shoes.
Fam.
Yeah, so a couple of things there. He tied the fact that everybody's going to end up in the same place if we don't stop this war. He talked about the fact that, you know, people in the economic factors, the defense industry making money. Is this just a pie? You know, are you just doing this to get a bigger piece of the pie? He also talked about the fact that, you know, people are working and working and working and they still can't seem to get by. just talking about that in contrast to the war machine kind of points to the situation of where our priorities lie in the United States. Our priorities lie in the West, right? And he said this empire or other trying to gain unipolarity. I mean, Roger may disagree on this, but there's only one empire that's been treating the rest of the world like its backyard, like its playground, like it's, like it has control over the rest of whatever people decide to do, demanding that other countries send weapons to Ukraine, really vilifying the countries that don't, making them feel like they need to, continuing to send these arms. And he's going to continue in a minute, but I just wanted to point that out, that it's extremely important to understand here, in contrast to the war machine that gets constantly fed, the people don't get fed, the working people are not looked after. And that's a very valid and important point to make. These people that, as he mentioned, fell through the neoliberal, cracks and of the system and are still fighting. And I think it's important to contrast that with the war machine.
Yeah. I like the fact that he mentioned many years of imperialism, which was really important. He also mentioned the war machine because he said it's at the expense, the lives are being lost at the expense of a few to make a few bucks. So that was really important that he pointed that out. It just seems like everything right now, fam, is the setup for what's coming on, because he did that thing. All right, that's the setup. Let me take a sip. Let me wet my lips and let's go. So I'm very eager to see how the next part of this speech goes. You ready?
Yeah.
Let's do it. Ladies and gentlemen, do us a favor. Hit the like button, hit the share button.
Excuse me. So, back to Ukraine. The invasion of Ukraine by the Russian Federation was illegal. I condemn it in the strongest possible terms. Also, the Russian invasion of Ukraine was not unprovoked. So I also condemn the provocateurs in the strongest possible terms. There, that's got that out of the way. When I wrote this speech yesterday, I included an observation that the power of veto in this council only lay in the hands of its permanent members, and that I was concerned that that was undemocratic and rendered this council somewhat toothless. This morning, however, I had a revelation upon waking. Toothless. Maybe toothless in some ways is a good thing. If this is a toothless chamber, I can open my big mouth on behalf of the voiceless without fear of getting my head bitten off. How cool is that? Anyway, I read in the paper this morning some anonymous diplomat quoted as saying, Roger Waters, to address the Security Council, whatever next? Mr. Bean? Ha ha ha. You know what they're like. Anyway, sorry. For those of you who don't know, Mr. Bean is an ineffectual character in an English comedy show on television. So it's a penny to a pound. The anonymous diplomat is an Englishman. Ha ha. Thank you, sir. Anyway, I think it's time to introduce my mother, Mary Duncan Waters. She was a big influence on me. She was a school teacher. I say was, she's been dead for 15 years. My father, Eric Fletcher Waters, was a big influence on me too. He too is dead. He was killed on the 18th of February, 1944, near Apulia, near the Anzio bridgehead in Italy. I was only 5 months old. So I know something about war and loss. Anyway, back to my mum. When I was about 13, I was struggling with some knotty adolescent problem or other, trying to decide what to do. It doesn't matter what it was. I can't remember anyway, but my mum sat me down and said, now listen, you're going to be faced with many knotty problems during your life, Roger. And when you are, here's my advice. Read, read, read. Find out everything you can about whatever it is. Look at it from all sides, all angles. listen to all opinions, especially ones you don't agree with. Research it thoroughly, and when you've done that, you will have done all the heavy lifting. And the next bit is easy. Is it? Okay, Mum. Well, what's the easy bit? Oh, the easy bit is you just do the right thing. So speaking of doing the right thing brings me to human rights. We, the people, want universal human rights for all our brothers and sisters all over the world, irrespective of their ethnicity, religion, or nationality. To be clear, that would include, but would not be limited to, the right to life and property under the law. For instance, for Ukrainians, and, for instance, Palestinians. Let that sink in. And obviously, for all the rest of us as well. One of the problems with wars is that in a war zone or anywhere where the people live under military occupation, there is no recourse to the law. There are no human rights. Today, our brief is the possibility of peace in the Ukraine, with special reference to the arming of the Kiev regime by third parties. I'm running out of time. So what do the voiceless millions have to say? They say, thank you for hearing us today. We are many who do not share in the profits of the war industry. We do not willingly raise our sons and daughters to provide fodder for your cannons. In our opinion, the only sensible course of action today is to call for an immediate ceasefire in Ukraine. No ifs, no buts, no ands. Not one more Ukrainian or Russian life is to be spent, not one. They are all precious in our eyes. So the time has come to speak truth to power. You all remember the story of the emperor's new clothes. Of course you do. Well, the leaders of your respective empires stand in one degree or another naked before us. We have a message for them. It is a message from all the refugees in all the camps, a message from all the slums and favelas, a message from all the homeless on all the cold streets, from all the earthquakes and floods on earth. It is also a message from all the people, not quite starving, but wondering how on earth to make the pittance they earn meet the cost of a roof over their head and food for their families. My mother country, England, is, thank God, an empire no more. But in that country now, there is a new catchphrase, eat or heat. You can't do both. It's a cry echoing around the whole of Europe. Apparently, the only thing the powers that be think we can all afford is perpetual war. How crazy is that? So, from the 4 billion or so brothers and sisters in this voiceless majority, who together with the millions in the international anti-war movement represent a huge constituency, enough is enough. We demand change. President Biden, President Putin, President Zelensky, USA, NATO, Russia, the EU, all of you, please change course now. Agree to a ceasefire in Ukraine today. That, of course, will only be the starting point, but everything extrapolates from that starting point. Imagine the collective global sigh of relief, the outpouring of joy, the international joining of voices in harmony singing an anthem to peace. John Lennon pumping the air with his fist from the grave. We've finally been heard in the corridors of power. The bullies in the schoolyard have agreed to stop playing nuclear chicken. We're not all going to die in a nuclear holocaust after all, at least not today. The powers that be have been persuaded to drop the arms race and perpetual war as their accepted modus operandum. We can stop squandering all our precious resources on war. We can feed our children. We can keep them warm. We may even learn to cooperate with all our brothers and sisters and even save our beautiful planet home from destruction. Wouldn't that be nice? Your Excellencies, I thank you for your forbearance.
Bam.
Okay, so
well, the second
obviously
part of that it opened up too as well with I don't think the invasion was legal. I think it was illegal. It's kind of they're still hitting that point. I know you disagree with that.
Yeah, and he condemned it too.
He did.
Yeah.
I don't understand why people can't understand certain things, right?
I almost think for
I was just gonna say.
I was just gonna say.
Yeah.
You could go ahead, but I was just gonna say real quick that I think it's for him and for certain people, it's almost something like they have to say that.
None of us want. I don't think so. None of us want war, right? I don't know. Maybe they do. I just think that they
feel like they
it's
have
a personal feeling that they have to say that, right?
Yeah.
Where a lot of people were saying, "Oh my God, you guys have balls to say that it was justified." No, it's basic fucking math. The only way you hold the United States imperialistic forces accountable for all these actions is to accept and understand and say it was justified that there was a reaction from Russia. Plain and simple.
Mm-hmm.
Plain and simple. That's how you hold your own country's behavior accountable. You know, I said this in the beginning. All right, you might not justify it, but you should expect it. That wasn't enough. How do we hold our side accountable for doing this when our side wanted war? Now we also know too, but for fact that they blew up the Nord Stream pipeline. They wanted this. They wanted this the whole time. It's the same kind of logic and why you believe somebody and why you believe in the Second Amendment and somebody has a right to defend themselves. There's an action and a reaction. That guy shot this person who came into his house. He went into his house. They were on their border. They were arming Nazis. They removed the government. They were moving NATO east. They want to remove the government in Russia. They blew up the Nord Stream pipeline. They funded all these weapons. Go ahead, fam.
I think some people feel like they have to say that, or like it's too much if they don't say that. Mm-hmm. You know, some people believe it, but I think some people feel like they have to say that, and I just don't agree with it at all. Because Rogers said, you know, it wasn't unprovoked. It was not unprovoked. It was provoked. We all know that. At least, you know, he said that because clearly a lot of people are trying to still get you to pretend that Putin just went in there because he wanted to take over Ukraine because Russia just wants to be the great Soviet Union or the great Russian Empire again. And that's like the CIA talking point. They're selling people, and that's just not the case. Russia tried so hard to not get involved in this conflict. They tried everything, and they are still trying diplomacy at every turn. I'm not just saying that because I'm some sort of fucking, you know, Russian propagandist like so many people, unfortunately, have called me. But I mean, again, it doesn't do anything to me because I've been called a propagandist since before I worked for RT because I've had the same fucking points of views. Nothing has changed in me. I'm the same exact person in terms of, in fact, I'm more anti-West now because of going to Latin America more and being here more and seeing the consequences, of course, of the actions of the West and their hegemony. And so when people back home who have never actually stepped foot outside of their country, had never gone to another country, say, oh no, but war is unjustified and it's this and that, and you know, you can't just say you're okay with it. I'm like, I'm not okay with it. I'm okay with people defending themselves against a global hegemonic power that's caused so much destruction around the world, not just in Russia or in the Donbass, but literally everywhere else. And they did cause that in the Donbass because of the Maidan coup that happened. They knew they were giving weapons to these people. They were putting these people, these Nazis, these fascists, in positions of power for 9 years now. People were living in these conditions and nobody cared about the issue of peace in that moment. Nobody said, hey, we need to look out for these peaceful people in the Donbass who are trying to seek emergence, because they didn't tell you to care. And that's what people don't realize. They think like they're above it, but really, are you, when you're completely unable to understand just logic and history? One of my favorite parts of Roger's discourse here right now was when he said what his mother taught him to do is look at things from all sides and all angles. And that's what a journalist should do. That's what a journalist does. Like, that's what you're supposed to do. It's not like, we went in here when we were talking about Maidan and Burisma and Ukraine. It's not like we were just like, oh yeah, let's just go and take the Russian side. Why would we have done that back then? It was just the facts. You look at everything and you look at the facts, and then you decide right and wrong, because there is a right and wrong. There's not I'm going to sit on the fence and be neutral forever, or I'm just going to hope for peace, because that's the easy option. The harder option is to understand what actually is happening. The harder option is to go to the places you report on, to really understand and talk to the people and why they feel the way they feel. And that's takes a lot more work, right? And to also listen to people you disagree with, because that's one of the things he highlighted, and it's something we've always talked about here on the show. Listen and talk to people you disagree with at every single turn. We have done that when it comes to the elections, when it comes to talking to Republicans, we'll even go debate liberals. And it's the liberals are fun because they don't know what they're talking about at all. And it's just you always listen, and you talk to, by listening to these opposing point of views. For example, listening to NPR and seeing what they're covering, you can understand like that is trash, and up until a point where you're just like, okay, I don't need to listen to this anymore, because it's just nauseating. But that's the thing. You listen to all sorts of people, but people can't get past their own egos. This is not about like us being right. This is about the reality that this is much bigger than Russia. This is much bigger than Ukraine, and it's literally a war that's being almost fought in this existential way right now for a different paradigm. People need to understand that this is like the fight between paradigms. And I think there's a lot of doom and gloom. There's a lot of, everything sucks. We're all going to die. It's going to go bad anyway. Sure. And that may be true. And, you may be right. But right now, if there is a chance, if there is a hope, then what the hell is the point of living if you're just going to say, well, everything sucks? Like, you have to have solutions. You have to have ideas that you put forth. There's no way that somebody's going to convince me that Russia is on board with the United States and NATO and the EU. Just being here, seeing the difference in the government, the difference in beliefs and culture, there's just no way. I just don't see that. But aside from that, it's this idea that, above everything else, whether you like Russia, whether you hate Russia, whether you like Ukraine or hate Ukraine, or whatever, you think I'm a propagandist. The reality is the nuclear disaster that could ensue if we don't stop this war, if we don't make our voices, especially in the United States, because you live in the empire that is using your tax dollars, whether MMTers want to agree to it or not, that is with your condoning it, because you live there and it's being waged on your behalf. You are the empire, the people of this empire that are weaponizing this conflict in Ukraine to attack a nuclear power. And they're doing it to China now too. They've been doing it to Iran, and now they're involving the entire world in this entire thing. They're involving the collective of NATO. They're involving the UK. They're destroying the economies of the European Union in order to get this done. They're killing every Ukrainian they can. They're not sending Americans yet, but just be sure that they have no problem sending Americans to die in Afghanistan. They had no problem doing it before. Thousands of American lives were lost, by the way, during these fights in the Middle East for these last 20 or so years. And that also, of course, matters. Obviously small in comparison to the millions of Iraqis, but it still matters. It's still people, young kids that they went and they died, or that never came back, of course, as Pasta always mentions, with trauma and just forever scarred from war, because war is ugly. Nobody wants war here. But what we're saying is we already are at war. And that's the thing. We're already at war. They're not telling you that the United States is at war, but the United States is at war. It's just not sacrificing you guys physically right now. But if Russia were a belligerent empire, if Putin was somebody like they've described him to be, this Hitler-esque character, he would have already bombed all of Ukraine. He would have already done so much. They wouldn't have been so restrained because they don't want that. They don't want that at all.
That is one thing we disagreed yesterday. We didn't get a chance to tell Johnny. Johnny was like, well, why are they waiting so long to do it? That's very suspicious. Well, they're trying to keep the infrastructure intact. They don't want to fucking completely. Once again, the Ukrainians are their brothers. That's how they look at them. Fia's there has been able to confirm this too as well. Nobody wants this action. This is the United States empire cooing a country, using all its proxies to fund the most radical fucking people, being Nazis, to bomb ethnic Russians on the border. I mean, come on, ladies and gentlemen. I'm sorry. And this is the way I feel. And if you feel differently, that's fine. And if you feel like you're anti-war because you want to make this statement that all action is, you're against all intervention, all action, but somebody threw the first punch, the second punch, the third punch, the fourth punch, the fifth punch. At one point, that person's back in the corner. What are they going to do, fam? Punch back. Take a look. This is Jimmy Dore real quick. Part of this section, fam. And by the way, Kurt Metzger was on the show the other day having some fun talking about Balloon Gate, fam.
I guess we know why Pink Floyd broke up. One front man is an establishment pro-war stooge, and the other is an anti-war truth teller. I guess we know why Pink Floyd broke up. One front man is an establishment pro-war stooge, and the other is an anti-war truth teller.
Fun stuff.
Who was the other one?
I don't know who the other. I think it's another member of Pink Floyd that's been pro. I haven't seen a lot on it. I've only been paying attention to what Roger Waters has been saying, but I'm sure there's stuff out there and whatnot. Anyways, guys, big crowd with us today. 213 people hanging out on YouTube. Trey Wright, fam, was the first one to walk in the door. 24 premium members over on Rockfin, guys. If you have a chance, you go over to Rockfin. Sign up over there. Trey Wright, thank you for the super rate contribution. It's always appreciated on the couch. Can't wait to see you and meet you in person, give you a big hug down in DC as we are trying to stop World War III. Hashtag Doomsday Clock.
Yeah.
So
stop World War III is right, fam. I mean, and you may not stop it by having this rally, but you sure as hell will show the rest of the world that not all Americans are just idiots sitting idly by and just arguing among each other and just like crying about this or that are actually taking some sort of like action to do what they can, which is vocalize this sentiment, because everybody else is just like sitting around or doing nothing or cheering it on. And that's what we export to the rest of the world as Americans. That's literally what the world sees. Americans, what are they? They're not talking about Ukraine. No, they're so interested in like their domestic policy. Only they can't even put Ukraine on a map. I mean, these are things that are discussed about Americans. Like, is that what you want to be? Is that what you want to be remembered as? Just the people that just didn't care about anybody else but themselves? Like, at the very least, it's your responsibility to be out there to do something to oppose this war effort, to say something to oppose your country's responsibility, because it is first and foremost the United States' responsibility. Every single thing can be traced back to what the United States did and their intervention is on. There's no way in hell you can equate Russia there to it. You can't even put Ukraine in there. You can't, because Ukraine was manipulated in 2014. They were invaded by the United States. They had their elections interfered with. So guess what? As corrupt as Ukraine is, you can't even yell at Ukraine. You can't even yell at the EU as much, because the EU is, of course, being controlled and completely sunk economically by the United States. So who's really the perpetrator here? And it's not Russia that literally tried at every turn, like I said. So yes, when I say that it's not the equivalent, it's because it's not. I'm not making it up. I'm not just simply taking Russia's side. It is what it is. It's the fact. It is a fact that the United States has been the one pushing this whole thing. And the rest of the world outside of the West knows it. Africa knows it. Latin America knows it. West Asia, the Middle East, China knows it. The Pacific Islands know it.
And here's the
Everybody
thing,
knows it.
people who are making this claim that Putin just woke up one day unprovoked because he wanted to expand the Soviet Union, that is the biggest bullshit there ever. Had the United States not intervened and got involved in Ukraine, right, Russia wouldn't be in Ukraine. And that's the bottom line. Russia would not be there. They had to. 8 years of trying to work the Minsk agreement and thinking that, they were kind of bargaining on good faith or negotiating on good faith, when they were told, oh, no, that was just a whole time to stall you so they can get the military up. And that's what they did for years. And we funded the whole thing. And then we had them go kill ethnic Nazis on the border because we knew that your people would be provoked, and so many people for so many years in Moscow. And like Yanukovych said as he was fleeing, that you're going to have to get involved. I'm sorry. Minsk. I can't say it, fam. DC's correcting me. But yeah, I mean, to act like this is just unprovoked, that he woke up one day, it just, I'm sorry.
It's
sorry.
false.
I'm going to take accountability for my country's actions. And I'm going to say that my country went way overboard. And I didn't vote for any of these people, a bunch of unelected bureaucrats within the deep state, but in our name, spilling blood. So we have a responsibility, and that responsibility is to get as many people in the streets, use as many people to put aside their differences, get in the streets and raise attention. You know what I'm saying? About the fact
it's not the first time.
Yeah. So
it's not the first time, guys. We just got done celebrating the 20-year anniversary of the invasion of Iraq. Hello? Yeah. Like, how many more wars is it going to take for you to realize that your petty fucking conflicts with each other have absolutely nothing in comparison to the conflicts you should have with these hegemonic psychopaths at the top who are literally waging war and trying to kill everybody off for their own benefit. And they're literally what they're trying to do. But people are so busy fighting each other, especially in the United States, the place where you should most see it, because you have more of an opportunity to see it. But because you haven't had the level of warfare shelled on your face, then it's just so much harder to really see what's at stake. And unfortunately, or fortunately, that hasn't happened, but who's to say it won't at some point? Because you may get somebody else that's like, you know what, screw the US.
Yeah.
Like, they need to learn the hard way. And that sentiment is not really that popular, because when people say they hate the U.S. empire, or they want to burn the flag, they're not talking about you. They're not talking about the American people. They're talking about the government. They're talking about the people that do this in your name. They don't hate Americans. They hate the American government, the American military, the State Department. That's who they hate. They don't hate you.
Yeah. By the way, somebody said nobody voted for Rishi Sunak. And thank you, Quantum. This is Love You, Fee, and Craig. We appreciate that too as well, guys. Thank you so much. As we said, we still have this going on. It's still scheduled, guys. It's hopefully we're going to get down there. We're going to have a great rally. But please, if you want to help us out, DC, Rage Against the War Machine protest. And here's the thing too. A lot of people are crying about they don't trust the organizers with the money. There's a 501(c), which is a political action filing. In other words, it's not like a 501(c) where they can hide stuff. A 501(c) is going to show everything. So if you're concerned about the finances, and once again, the finances for this are going to be a drop in the bucket to what we saw at Defeat the Mandates and a lot of other rallies where there's a lot of money coming in. This is still a grassroots, try to get the small people to throw in kind of rally. So we can get a screen, a big microphone. We can play some people's videos on the screens and just do it right and get the message out there. So for people who have that kind of criticism, that's not a valid criticism. Everything will be seen. All the money will be shown. And at the end of the day, like I said, it's a small drop in the bucket. And if you don't want to donate to the thing, donate to people individually. My Venmo is at Craig Jardula, and my Cash App is at is $ Pasta Jardula. And thank you for the unnamed person who sent this for me and Fee and all the stuff. Every dime helps because it's a struggle every month. Remember, we're going on 2.5 years of no money from YouTube. We've been demonetized. That is one of the biggest kneecaps out there. It's one of the biggest platforms. Even though we're there, we can't make any money. So just imagine, you see all these other small outlets out there. I'm one of those outlets that can't make money off YouTube, So We are one of those outlets that can't make money off of YouTube. So, anyways.
Yeah, I hope it happens. And it would be a shame if it didn't. And it would really just issue a complete and total distrust and collapse of the Libertarian Party. And
not that out there who are complaining about this too,
and the leftists,
What do they just want? They want this event to not take place? Is that what they want?
Yeah.
No,
it seems that way. I would just
their way. No, it's not your rally. It's
make your
rally.
own rally if you don't like the way it's being
That's
done.
it. They don't go to this one. And it's one thing that we have serious questions. No, you're nitpicking at everything. The finances, the definition of anti-war. Somebody's history that it seems like you guys don't even know the freaking history of the case. Like, go back and do it. And I get it, man. I understand. Then don't attend. Don't sponsor it. Don't go. Do your own thing. That's it. It's just crazy. It's crazy.
It's really infantile is what it is. It's infantile. It's detrimental to peace. It's detrimental to the peace you're talking about. You're so focused on the semantics or the one person. It's like, this isn't helping the cause that you say you want to help. It's literally hindering the cause. Would be a phenomenal group of people for the most part, there's a few, right? But a phenomenal for the most part. And then they would be, this could get media attention. It would allow an opposition to be seen for the rest of the world. People would be talking about it. I'm sure international media would cover it, particularly RT. You'd be able to see that this is like, okay, this is actually happening, that people are actually opposing this. We see it all the time in Europe. We can't even get like a small bit of that in the United States because everyone fights. If the communists and the far right in the Czech Republic can get together and organize a rally, and we can't do this. We can't even do not even that in the United States. Like, just a few groups get together. It's just so sad. It just shows you why the United States is where it's at and what it's done to its people.
It's really, I don't even know what to do about this whole thing too, as well, because it's just like, I don't know. I don't know if I should just go dark and not respond to anybody. Look at this over here again. See this again? Like, I have to follow you again. You see that shit? Holy cow. Again. No, Twitter's changed. Thank you, Elon. Breaking: Nicaragua orders the deportation, of the 222 political prisoners to the United States. The prisoners were accused of committing violent terrorist acts which undermine the sovereignty, independence, and self-determination of the people of Nicaragua at the behest of the United States. And we know this. We have receipts. Okay? They tried to start another coup. Surprise everybody. Right?
Yeah. Yeah, no, and this is again another example here. You want to compare Russia to this? When's the last time Russia invaded Nicaragua? Can somebody tell me when's the last time Russia invaded any of the countries in Latin America? Oh, that's right, never. Russia was working with freaking South Africa to end apartheid. I mean, just to equate them at the same level, even if you don't like Putin, even if Putin is a piece of shit, if you think he's an oligarch or whatever, how do you equate this? How do you say that the United States and NATO are the same? They've been doing this to Nicaragua. The United States has been trying to overthrow Nicaragua for a long time because the Sandinistas came back and took care of their government. And not only did they do that, they educated younger people on what happened, on the history. Because if you don't know history, you are bound to repeat the same mistakes. And that's the problem with the U.S. youth and the youth in most countries, even in Russia, where youth still, a lot of them, they don't know what led to the fall of the Soviet Union. And that is a very dangerous place to be. And they're trying to do the same in Iran. They've been trying to do the same in Cuba. And this is what we're talking about here. The Sandinistas are some of the most educated people in the world on their history. And they went in there and they said, we're not going to allow the United States to coup us. So what happens when we put this out, Pasta, is somebody says, oh, wow, like they imprisoned political opposition. Aren't you like anti free speech warrior? Aren't you like anti-censorship? Okay, guys, they were trying to overthrow the government.
Yeah.
They were literally trying to overthrow
government, by the way,
with NGOs
yes.
and literally funded by the United States.
Yes.
Not the same thing. Literally not the same thing. So again, it's like, but it's those comments that I know we're gonna get and that we get already. Like, oh, but aren't you the free speech warrior? Oh yeah, Nicaragua is not a dictatorship. The New York Times, of course, publishes an article. Daniel Ortega's dictator government, like finally released. It's like, come on, it's ridiculous. These elections that were, what is it? A pantomime elections. The New York Times called it. Yeah, better elections than we have had ever in the history of our country.
Ever. Fam, I got more stuff for you over here. Can you explain to me what this is?
Okay, so this is just from Camilla and Ali, Casachuan News. Nicaragua Deports 222 people who were declared traitors, and you can see this is what they his statement, just so everybody here or can see it.
Los sentenciados que por diferentes ilícitos violentaron el ordenamiento
violated the legal and constitutional order, threatening the Nicaraguan state and Nicaraguan society, harming the supreme interest of the nation, consequently the immediate and effective deportation of 222 persons is ordered, of which persons have already been deported from the country, all in compliance with the resolution issued on February 8th, 2023. The immediate deportation of 222 persons sentenced for committing acts to undermine the independence, the sovereignty, self-determination of the people, for inciting violence, terrorism, and economic destabilization, but also for harming the supreme interests of the nation, established in the legal system, international conventions, and human rights treaties, altering peace, security, and constitutional order. So the deportees were declared traitors to the homeland and sanctioned for different serious crimes, and perpetually disqualified from exercising public functions in the name of the service of the state of Nicaragua, as well as from holding elected office, their citizenship rights being perpetually suspended. At this time, the deportees are already in the USA. Thus, we consider the deportation to have been complied with. Thank you. So these people were some of these people that were trying to overthrow the government, essentially. They were politicians. They were people involved in government. They sent them to the United States. They are no longer Nicaraguan citizens. They're like, you can have them. The United States, in turn, then issued a statement saying, we're happy that they sent us. This will allow more, they sent us these prisoners. This will allow us more ability to work with the government of Nicaragua. So, yeah, they're happy they sent them their people, essentially, the people they were working with. They got on a plane. They went to D.C. We were trying to get Wyatt to go, but Wyatt said the Uber was too expensive. But they landed in Dulles Airport. And they're there. And, we consider them, if I were, like, if they were, like, Cuban or whatever, Gusanos, like, traitors to their country. And while, again, it's a different country, so they don't want anybody overthrowing their country because they've been overthrown by the United States. They've been couped by the United States. The United States has been involved in Nicaragua for a long time, and they still are looking to involve themselves. I believe more sanctions were coming to Nicaragua as well. And here, there's a list of names of the 222 people who were deported and deemed traitors. And as we mentioned before, so there's just a list so you guys can see there's a bunch of them. And they call them traidores a la patria. So that would be translated to traitors to their country. Yeah. So there you go. And because they tried to overthrow the country, a country that is enduring sanctions, a country that with the help of the US. It wasn't like people were unhappy and that the government was corrupt and that the government isn't doing anything for them. It was like a group of people that were funded by the United States trying to overthrow the government.
They tried to put other groups back in, so those samosas and whatnot. And here's the rules. They were like, all right, we'll just show us your finances. Show us that you're not getting, according to this law, outside finances, and you'll be fine. They didn't want to disclose all that information, where they were getting their money from. And they were funded by who? The NED, you know what I'm saying, and other NGOs. This is something that the great late Kevin Zeese had pointed out about what was going on in Nicaragua. So it's, and Dan
Kobalik just wrote a book on Nicaragua, and he's doing like different little copies on it. So he knows a lot about it. So I'll post it next time I see it. We have a show.
You can hear it really loud. Do you have your headset
on? Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, so that's that section. Fam, do you want to say anything else real quick before we move on? I mean, that's the news, guys. That's what's going on. Nicaragua. This reminds me of when Ortega says, Yankee, go home.
Yeah.
Those of you who are working with them, you don't have to go over there and hang out with the United States government.
Yeah, if you like them so much, just go over there.
Just go over there.
Bye.
Go over there.
That's why I love Nicaragua, because they're like at the political like FU level that I'm at. Like, it's like, yeah, get the fuck out of here.
Guys, do us a favor, hit the like button, hit the share button. Combo Couches on YouTube, Combo Couches on Rumble today, Combo Couches on Rockfin if you're a premium member. Thank you to people like
bye, Felicia.
Trey, right?
Sorry,
somebody said bye, Felicia. Trey, right? And we have another one over here, fam. Let me just tell you. Bad Andy. What's up, Bad Andy? A effing racket every war. Much love, fam. Bad Andy, thank you so much. You're amazing. Andy. I think Bad Andy sent me something I might be using in the show today. No, it was somebody else, but don't worry about it. Thank you, Bad Andy. I always enjoy your DMs, your tweets, and everything else over there. The American people need to stop this. Thank you. I'm assuming they need to stop the war. They need to stop allowing the government in our name to do these awful things. I mean, the doomsday clock is closer to midnight than it's ever been in the history, meaning we are closer to all-out nuclear war. And we got to recognize the actions of the empire, and they need to be held to account. So that's just the way I feel about that. So, fam, you want to get ready started on the next section?
Yeah, it's just a quick section, guys. We didn't want to do a long show today. Shout out to Friendly Brilliant for the support.
Ruth.
Hope the dog's doing great.
Fam.
So I just an update on Peru. We have a good friend that's there, Terry. So Terry, can you do the fam find the advertisement while I go over this of the WTF, because she's going to be streaming from Peru. Terry.
Got it.
So Terry's in Peru right now. So there will be an episode of what the fuck is happening in Latin America and the Caribbean from Peru. She's going to be trying to get stuff done. She was at a conference recently, and they were just updating people on the situation. It's entered past the 60 days of the protests in Peru. And we have a few other friends that are there and updating me. I don't think he's there anymore. He was
back in.
I think he's back in Bolivia. But there's just a few people I met through the Peruvian Twitter space that are there. Clau is one of them. She's going to be on at some point, but she's covering the protest. She's on Black Agenda Report as well. So we just have different people there. And again, there has been talk that there might be some infiltrators, that there might be some, Western funded groups. As always happens in protests, you always have to watch out for that. They have a certain agenda to sow discord, basically. But yeah, 60 days since the far right coup in Peru, ousting and imprisoning ex-president Pedro Castillo, the death toll at 65. People are still protesting the repression. And this is, of course, from Los Ronderos, our good friend, sent us this. So there it is you can see, and this is, I believe, in Lima.
Looks like Lima.
But the protest the protests are going on pretty much everywhere in the country.
Damn, they're doing your cheer.
So asesina means murderer. So they're saying that she is a murderer because she's allowed these killings to occur during her presidency. So just showing that.
Damn, I need you to get one of those hats. Do you want the white one there or the black one? Which one? I think the black one would be more like you.
I think the black one was, totally the black one.
Yeah. The white one with the flowers is not bad, too. I think your mom could rock that one and you rock this one.
Fam, you're so ridiculous sometimes.
Well, maybe that hat over there. How about that one? And then, of course, Johnny would rock that on the right, right? Like, that is so Johnny. Johnny's already, I've started to see Johnny rocking one of those.
He has one.
He's got one of those. Yeah.
So guys, so they're continuing the protests, and there's a few developments that have happened. I'm just going to go over some of that. But it's important to keep tabs on this because, again, like when it happened in Bolivia, people just didn't pay attention, and now it's like we're, paying more and more attention to what's been going on. One of the things that's been said, again, spotting of Western-funded provocateurs, troops. There's also a strike happening. So apart from the protests, they are trying to do a strike where they're going to stop the production of things, which is why things in Lima aren't good right now. Because if you stop the economy, it's good for the protesters. But if you stop the economy, you're stopping the whole flow of goods and food and stuff. So it's a very dire situation. Some people think like, oh, this was just gonna stop. No, I think this is gonna go on, fam, for a while. They're not stopping. They see this again. This is one of those times where they see this as a fight for their existence, because they see it as these people are getting exterminated, that they're getting killed. So that's they're fighting basically to not get killed and to have a different government once and for all, because they don't have a different government right now. They have the government that's just been extremely corrupt for a long time. That's ousted pretty much every president in recent history. So, right. And then there's another one.
Is it the national strike one next?
It's Combo Couch, I believe. Yeah, no, Combo Couch.
The Combo Couch one? All right, that was the second one then. All right. I'll get that up right now, fam. Give me 2 seconds. Oh, yeah, it is. What happened was I push pictures again. Once you push pictures, you screw everything up.
So, you know how the West tries to convince everybody that everybody hates Russia, that Russia is just awful and nobody likes Russia? Well, again, we've just been seeing this several times now. Peruvian protesters hold Russian flags as they march. One says, we need support from China, Russia, and from many countries that are watching what is happening here in Peru. So you can play it. I'll translate from Rupley. This is why we tell the whole world that Russia is seeing a dim view of the reactions of the Peruvian armed forces. That's why we need the support from China, Russia, and from many countries that are watching what is happening here in Peru, brother. So those are giant Russian flags. Now, I did say this in my quote tweet. I said, if you're Peruvian, you don't need a visa to enter Russia. They've had notoriously good relations. So if I had a Peruvian passport, I wouldn't have to go through all the bullshit I'm having to go through with the visa situation, because Peruvians don't need a visa and to enter Russia. So yeah, I just wanted to say they've had notoriously good relations. A lot of Peruvians study Russian mathematics. My dad studied a lot of Russian mathematics, Russian mathematicians. So not everybody hates Russia or China like they want you to think. And here it is. After 20 years, the General Confederation of Workers of Peru, CGTP, calls for a national strike starting February 9th, yesterday, against Dina Boluarte and the current Congress. Oh, today for you guys, after they blocked early elections.
So they've already started doing that shit where they've already started blocking the early elections. Like that's what they said part of the condition was, is that the fact is that she's going to step down once early elections can be made. But this is like, I got to think, fam, as a Peruvian, this is kind of like, what's that when it happens again over and over again?
Deja
vu, right? The Fujimori government for years, Alberto. I'm going to throw snap elections, but what was it, 7 years later or something like that?
Yeah.
Something stupid like that. Gotta feel like deja vu's got to be kicking in.
History is cyclical, right? And it often repeats or rhymes. So that's just, this is where we're at again. We're at that place with the Nazi situation. We're at that place in Peru and Latin America. There's a lot of pushback. So and I just wanted to remind everyone too, I think this is an important point. I think this is Camilla right here.
Yeah, it is.
Because we go back to the finances, always follow the money. So she had an article for the Canada File. She wrote an article, so you should go read it. But here's the gist of it. She's talking about how Trudeau is propping up Peru's regime in order to protect Canadian mining. Undeterred by Boluarte's killing of 58 civilians, it's gone up. Peru's resources will soon be up for auction at the infamous PDAC mining convention in Toronto. Guys, and this is what my mother tells me. She says Peru has always been, for as long as she can remember, ruled by the multinational corporations, these families that sell Peru basically to the international corporations, the international businesses, and they make money off of the mining industry. And all that money gets taken out of Peru and goes into the pockets of Western governments, and Peru never sees it. That's why when Pedro Castillo ran, his whole thing was no more poor people in a rich country, because Peru is a rich country. Just like Africa has many countries that are wealthy with the soil, with the mining more than anything. And of course, they don't see any of that wealth. And so you see the same thing in Latin America, not just Peru, but throughout Latin America. And so that's essentially what this is about here. This is all about the mining, guys. This is really, yes, there's other elements involved. They hate the indigenous people. There's racial elements involved. There's class elements involved. They think they're uneducated, uncouth savages. The people in Lima think that these people are worthless. They refer to them as such. It's really disgusting. There's those elements, but above those elements is what is going on in the mining industry, and they need these mines. They need this to continue. And of course, Chile is eventually gonna, they have Boric in there, who's like an AOC type. So Chile is another one that's involved in the mining. And Bolivia, of course, is in there. But the good thing is that Bolivia is actually fighting to take control of its country, but constantly it's having to continue to fight constantly, because when it comes to the next phase of the fourth industrial revolution, that's going to be prime, the mining industry, particularly the lithium. And that is something people should really, really look at, because this is what this is about here. It's the money, the wealth in Peru through its natural resources, and including the Amazon. And that's why Brazil's in there with that as well.
By the way, Camilla listens to really cheesy music, by the way. She likes cheesy, like rocky music.
Where did this come from, fam? We're talking about Camilla's article, and now you're talking about her music taste?
Yeah. She listens to cheesy music. I just want to put her on the spot while we were doing the show and feature her.
That's rude. I'm going to tell Camilla you said that.
Right?
Really?
She's going to say, you don't have to tell her. She could go see herself, right? Never made it as a wise man.
Really?
No.
That song?
No, I don't think
Nickelback?
I don't think she's a Nickelback fan. I don't think she's a Nickelback fan, but it was just like, there's yeah.
I remember torturing my high school boyfriend with Nickelback.
That is torture.
And he had to swallow his pride because I was like, I want Nickelback, and I was just on purpose. Like,
oh my God.
I know, I'm vicious.
Oh my God.
So you guys know a secret about me.
Yeah. Fam, just special shout out to yeah. Okay. Special shout out to Addy Ads. Go check out his stuff. Doing some work over there today. Really, really cool.
Hey, Popeye Sailor has never heard of Nickelback. We should introduce them.
Popeye Sailor, you have. Don't be lying.
My friend used to call it nickel crap.
It is nickel crap.
No, poor Nickelback.
My friend used to.
They weren't rock. They were pop. Like
they're just cheesy, whatever. My friend used to say, like, don't be talking shit on Nickelback, man. What's going on? Well, he is Nickelback.
We'll do a whole other episode on why people hate Nickelback, and it'll be like a discussion. And yeah.
All right, so let me just talk about fam. This next section coming up. This is a little sneaking in special section. I think you're gonna like this because something happened at the State of the Union the other day. Something we've been talking about for quite some time. I've been saying, and I think you've been kind of agreeing, and you've been mentioning the fact that once the United States is done with some of these actions over here, there's a very strong possibility. We saw the Donald Trump situation, right? He was talking about the cartels, kind of blaming the cartels. I've talked about the Florida legislation, about the fact that they're all anti-socialist, anti-Cuba, anti-communist. So much that DeSantis wants to have a day honoring the person who killed Che Guevara. Like, that's how crazy they are over there. And there's one guy, Bob Menendez, who was really, really off the chain. Well, the other day, fam, we had the State of the Union, right? And old Joe over there went wandering.
Dark Brandon.
Yeah, Dark Brandon went wandering over there to Bob Menendez after the whole thing. And here we go.
Did they have a moment?
They had a moment. And you can see Biden walks over. Bob, I got to talk to you about Cuba. And Bob Menendez says, okay. Fam, Bob Menendez, I'm going to show you in a little bit, has a history of hating Cuba. He's a Cuban refugee, in fact. So take a look at Not So Slow Joe, pumped up on adrenochrome, saying some shit to Bob Menendez.
Son of a tista.
I gotta talk to you about Cuba. Bob, I gotta talk to you about Cuba. Bob, I gotta talk to you about Cuba. Bob, I gotta talk to you about Cuba. Okay, I'm serious.
I don't know, fam.
They have zero to talk about Cuba, okay? Stay the hell away from fucking Cuba. Jesus Christ, these people. That is the scariest statement I've heard Joe Biden make in a long time.
Yeah.
Really. It really is. Jesus Christ.
Okay, so here is another thing. More history of Bob Menendez, just so we know who we're talking about. So now we know that they got to talk to him about Cuba. Well, let's take a look at Bob and the history of Cuba. This is this is a couple years ago, 7/12/2021. Bob Menendez answering why Biden didn't reverse Trump's sanctions on Cuba. So
Mr. President,
Obama lifted some of the restrictions, right? Trump came in, reversed them. So please tell me he's the war-friendly, once again, that's okay because it's a communist country. So then it's all right to punish and sanction and starve people out. Here's Bob Menendez on Cuba.
Mr. President Obama restored diplomatic relations in 2015. President Trump, he reversed those policies. On the campaign trail, Joe Biden pledged to go back to the Obama era policies, but he hasn't changed anything yet. Why do you think that is?
Well, I think the president has had a time to review the actual policies under President Obama. And all of the openings that President Obama made, which were one-sided, unilateral in terms of concessions, showed themselves to create absolutely no change inside of Cuba. The regime still arrested peaceful protesters. The regime still put political dissidents in jail. The regime still rationed the Cuban people, even as they had dollar stores bursting with food, but the Cuban people could not get access to that unless they had access to dollars. So the regime showed no change, but what it did do is profit dramatically by the revenues that flowed into the regime, because the regime controls all tourism in all agriculture sales inside of Cuba. Raul Castro's son and son-in-law controlled the two major corporations, which are part of the Cuban military. So the regime enriched itself. The Cuban people never saw any benefit from it. So the result of that, I think, is that the Biden administration looked and said, wait a minute, that didn't seem to work. We have to think about what exactly we should do in this regard.
So, yeah, when we were down in Cuba in 2015 for the reopening of the embassy, dissidents told me exactly what you said, that this was not going to work because Obama was not requiring any concessions, any reform. Trump came in, reversed it all. It seems to be that you're saying Biden should not just go back to Obama's policies. He needs to require some concessions by the Cuban government before returning to normalized relations.
Well, yes, I don't think the administration should just return to the Obama policies, which show themselves not to succeed in the aspirations that they had. In fact, I have given the White House a white paper on a whole host of policy options they should consider as it relates to how do we embrace the Cuban people, but at the same time make it.
So, fam, that's Bob.
This is why I want to go to Cuba, because this moron. Oh yeah, they said exactly what you're saying. Oh yeah, they said this. They said what Obama did isn't helping.
Let me finish this rest of this up. It's like 37 seconds, really quick, and then we'll just finish it really quick.
Clear to its dictatorship, because Diaz-Canel is a different name than the Castros, but he is cut of the same cloth. His verbiage and his speeches are all of the same thing. And so when the Cuban people say that, in fact, they want to see change, patria y vida, what does that mean? It means country and life. Yes, they can have a life and their country, but it doesn't have to be under the circumstances that exist now.
Let's talk about
clear to the.
Yeah, because the United States should dictate what Cuba
does. Yeah, Cuba does.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I still have more. This one was from March, around the same time. So I just want to show more Bob Menendez while we're here, and then we'll get to it. Well, I mean, it's important because this is the guy who's going to be like pushing for.
I know it's just so hard to listen to him because he's just such a fucking warmonger.
Anyway, start with the protests in Cuba. I have a lot to ask you about, but obviously this is not just a political issue. It's a personal issue for you. You're the son of Cuban immigrants. It is extremely unusual for so many Cubans to take to the streets against the government. What is your response as you see these images?
Well, it's an incredible, historic, I think, a set of protests. It's beyond Havana. Which of course is very urban. It is the breadth and scope of different parts of the island that are in protest. And this is the frustration of years of a regime whose policies ultimately do not allow the Cuban people to realize their hopes and dreams and aspirations and have a better life. And COVID has only gone ahead, as in our own country, we saw the inequities that was created by that were shown by COVID to exist. And in Cuba, the failure of the regime to deal with COVID has only, shown the greater consequences that the Cuban people are facing at large. And so it's a historic moment. It's a time for the United States and others in the world to give echo to the cries of the Cuban people and to create an opportunity for them to realize change in their own country.
After President Obama restored diplomatic relations in 2015, President Trump, he reversed those policies.
So this is the same one.
On the campaign trail, Joe Biden pledged to go back to the Obama.
I want to get the first part when he said it was personal to him. I should have just played that one right over there, but I found it a little bit late. Kind of threw it in there. But because I have a couple more things as well to put in there.
Well, I just want to say, he's mentioning how the people of Cuba don't have this or that. Literally does not mention the sanctions, the blockade, 60-year blockade, and what that's done to the Cuban economy. And the fact that Cuba, in spite of that, developed its own vaccine, non-mRNA. And the fact that Cuba's developed its own healthcare system. And the fact that Cuba's trying, in spite of the hardship. It's not easy to withstand sanctions. Venezuela knows this. Iran knows this. Syria knows this. And these are all U.S. sanctions. And they talk about the poverty of Cuba without mentioning U.S. sanctions. And he talks like this is like something the United States should involve itself in. This is not anything the United States should involve himself in. He doesn't have to like Diaz-Canel. He doesn't have to like the government of Cuba, but the people of Cuba chose that government, and they really did. And that's why I want to go to Cuba, to literally debunk every single one of these lies that these idiots just get paid on to say. How much does this anchor get paid? What's his face gets
I
paid
don't know.
to go
Millions,
on CNN and millions of dollars to freaking interview Mob Menendez and give him a platform to say all these lies that he says about Cuba, and literally not mention once sanctions and blockade, what they've done to the people of Cuba.
So that is one angle too as well, fam. But here's the next angle they're going to try to do. They're going to try to attack it from the financial aspect, right? Like, okay, so Cubans' economic reforms are kicked out of the Communist Party's National Assembly. This is February 9th, just the other day. So we hear Joe Biden go, hey, man, I got to talk to you about Cuba. Now we see a lot of stuff coming out. I love the smell of communist purges in the morning. After he tried and failed to achieve the impossible, making a socialist economy work, the Castro dictatorship appears to be done with Marino Jorge. Marino Jorge, the Cuban regime's, I hate when they go the regime's economic reform czar, will not be in the National Assembly. The Cuban regime has left out Marino Jorge from the list of 470 candidates who will make up the National Assembly of Popular's Power, the ANPP, which is the exact number of the members of parliament will have and its 10th legislator. The absence of the government's so-called economic reform czar on the list appears to be the new punishment for failure of what they called ordering task. And Jorge was a member of the ANPP representing the Havana municipality of the Plaza de la Revolucion, and was ratified on April 18, 2018 for the 9th legislature. His name does not appear among the candidates published in the state-run newspaper Granma. Those included on the list are Mariel Castro Espin, the director of the National Center for Sex Education and daughter of Raul Castro, and Luis Antonio Torres Iraba, the first secretary of the Communist Party in Cuba of Havana. In November 2021, Murillo Jorge was appointed as the president of the Tobacco Business Group of Cuba. The previous month, Miguel Diaz-Canel had dismantled the Permanent Commission for the implementation of the development of the guidelines, which was in charge of the ordering task and headed by the economists. So, fam, what they're trying to do is they're trying to point out economic flaws. Once again, show the American people that no matter what, no socialist government will ever survive. And
I would have to look at another source.
Yeah.
Sorry, and I would have to look at another source from that to really give us the full, because that's clearly like a right-wing source, right?
Steve Hanke, Cuba's economic death spiral just keeps spinning out of high speed.
Pasta?
Yes.
Did you ask me? Did you? I was asking you a question.
Oh,
I said I had to. I said I'd have to look at another source of the article you posted. Can you find another source? Because that article was obviously a right-wing source.
Yeah, it was
so
a right-wing
it'd be good to find like another source that maybe there's like a counter to that, like why he was fired, what was going on.
Sure, I'm going to look for that. I think there was a couple in Spanish, but I couldn't read them.
Yeah, you can send them to me and I'll read them.
And I'm sure there is. The thing I'm trying to point out is the way the Western media is manufacturing consent for regime change, is manufacturing consent to go after any socialist government, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's trying to do the impossible. He's trying to make a socialist government work, and it will never work. And that's the problem. And then you have more of this where people are just, saying what they're saying. Cuba's economic death spiral just keeps spinning at high speed. Since January 1st, 2022, the Cuban peso has depreciated 57% against the USD. Thanks to Cuba's communist regime, the value of the peso is nowhere to be found. And they're just showing you the way the peso fell off the chart is what they're trying to say. Did COVID have a lot of effect of what was going on in Cuba since Absolutely. They get a lot of money from tourism? Of course. So I'm sure that's not the full story, but that is part of the story. But that's what they're doing right now, fam. They're trying to manufacture consent for regime change.
Can you focus on inflation in your country?
No.
Like, and the homeless that are literally living in the streets, and you're blaming communism for the homeless in a capitalist country? That's what I don't get. Is I see all these videos from all these like accounts that are clearly, more on the right, and it's like, yeah, communism in California. It's like, but no, that's neoliberalism. There's no communism in the United States. The United States has waged a war on it. They said, no, you can't have that in here. They've anything socialist, they pretty much flushed it out. I mean, the only thing that's left is like libraries and public roads, and school is privatized pretty much at this point. And you don't even want to put your kid in a public school anymore because they teach them a bunch of crap. So really what's left there's nothing socialist really about the United States. Like, and that used to mean just like workers. They used to mean like, we're going to get a 5-day work week. We're going to work 8 hours. You're going to have vacation. Like, all of that is just being trampled on. So I just don't understand the desire, how people fall for that, because it's like, well, why are you so worried about Cuba? Why don't you worry about your shit, your country, the housing crisis, everything that's going on there that you blame outside sources for, whether it's Russia, whether it's China, whether it's Cuba, whether it's communism, whatever the hell it is. Like, you don't have to love communism to literally not be an idiot and try to blame it for all your problems when it doesn't exist in your country. It just doesn't make any logical sense. And for people who say they're economists and they're all about numbers and logic, that just doesn't make sense. The peso fell because of COVID, and also because of, like what Pasta said, the tourism industry really hit them, but also 60-year blockade in Cuba.
Yeah.
Let's put a 60-year blockade in the United States and see how
what
well
happens.
we get there.
Yeah. Well, especially now, since we don't make anything, we don't fix anything. Everything is imported from other. So this is, by the way, fam, Presidencia Cuba. And the translation says, so that the day one goes to vote, the day that someone goes to vote and it takes the ballot in their hands, they know what they're doing as a citizen, as a revolutionary, as a member of a family, as a member of a community, as a member of a work group. So he's talking about the election. Fam, I'm going to put this here if you want to. The words are there, but if you want to translate, it's just 19 seconds really quick. Here we go.
He just said the same thing you just said. So you know who you are, like a citizen, like a revolutionary, like a member of a family, like a member of a community, like a member of a collective of work. Yeah, same exact thing.
Yeah. Okay.
So he's talking about the ballot. So it's a paper ballot. We can see.
Dude, I've heard so many great things about their elections. I want to go. I heard they get their youth involved. I heard there's so many great things about their election. Like, so I'd like to see it. And it's like they believe they teach that too as well. So you learn about it. You learn about the systems and what's going on. Fam, I know we got punished for, and I just want to show this really quick.
Fam, no.
What,
no,
fam?
No more copyrights.
No, not at all. Not at all. No more. I just put it there in the volume, though, just so you know, and the title. House. Okay, fam, here we are. U.S. House votes to condemn China over balloon surveillance. So this is what they're doing. The House voted unanimously on Thursday to condemn Chinese balloon surveillance program as a brazen violation of U.S. sovereignty and a rare, swift bipartisan rebuke of Beijing, as questions mount about the craft the U.S. says was part of a vast aerial spy program. So there they are. You got Manchin right there, the war hawks. The 419-0 fam action came as lawmakers clamoring for information about the balloon that flew across American skies was being briefed by U.S. officials in the classified session. The Senate has also held a hearing Thursday about the balloon, which was shot down by the U.S. military last weekend. So, fam, they're spending time having joint sessions condemning China. They always want war. They want an adversary. They want an enemy. They want to make sure at all times.
Fam,
that
419-0. That means the entirety of the squad voted for it.
to condemn China because they have to.
But I thought the squad were socialists and communists. Oh, well, guess what? They're not. They're freaking neoliberals, and they're going to vote to condemn any sort of foreign policy aspect that literally they need to. That goes along with the establishment. It's just literally this very xenophobic desire to go to war with communist China. Like, it's disgusting. They're such little warmongers, all of them. Yeah. It's fam, why did you send a balloon to spy on me, fam? Why did you do that?
I did because I wanted to see what you were doing. So I blew it with helium and I sent it and I pushed it. I had to figure out which way was Moscow, and I was like, oh, this is Moscow, and I pushed it this way. Like the way I put the red up today, fam, to match my shirt so we could be the commie couch. But I'm supposed to be on this side because you got more of the blue and purple. So see how the board works? Like you're more blue and purple, and that's what's mentioned, and I'm more red over here, and it blends in. That is how it's supposed to be. Guys, down below, you can see the givesendgo.com, the convo in Cuba. You like our work? Help us out. You don't like our work? Don't watch us. Don't follow us. I don't tell you. I love you all. Can't appease everybody. Can't make everybody happy. Like I said, we got the anti-war rally. Oh, I'm sorry. The anti-interventionist rally. The Rage Against the War Machine rally on February 19th. And if you want to help out, you can always help out. You don't have to donate to the actual rally itself because you don't like that what's going on. But if you want to help Pasta get there, put a hotel room up. My Venmo is at Craig Jardula, and my Cash App is at $Pasta Jardula. Please help out if you can. But once again, the most important thing right now, that's why I wanted to put that little session, is givesendgo.com/the combo in Cuba. Fam, we got to get a hold of these people and make sure we can go see their election because, as you can see, this is Joe Biden on the floor of the State of the Union telling Bob, I got to talk to you about Cuba. What does he have to talk to Bob about Cuba about, fam? What Bob is a Cuban, friggin' hates that government, wants to remove them. So yeah, fam. It would be beneficial for Cuba to have the convo couch there for this election.
These are the moments where I wish I had a dragon and I could just go to Peru and take care of the idiots there, go to DC, take care of the idiots there, go to Ukraine, take care of the idiots there, go to Cuba, defend Cuba from Menendez. These are the times I wish I had a dragon, fam, but I don't have a dragon. So I'm sorry.
Fam, you need a dragon. Please go get one. Ask Putin to borrow his dragon because, the dude's crazy. He's unprovoked. Fam, we do have a little love right here on our Rockfin, and I copied it and put it up here because I thought it was important to bring the message. And Sharon Williams, thank you for the super rate contribution. Sharon Williams tipped $2. Thank you so much. There are co-opters everywhere, and those who are throwing the wrench into the cogs of the success of this rally ought to be considered that.
Yeah, it's hard to consider it anything else at this point.
I don't know.
So
some people say they have legitimate questions. It seems like to me
you can have questions, but to try to stop the rally is a whole other thing.
And their questions are that they want to ruin the rally. They don't like who's throwing it. They don't like who's speaking at it. And I get it. Go throw your own thing. And that's that. So, I mean, sorry. I don't know what to tell you. Everything you've brought to our attention, everything that we've already talked about, you know what I'm saying? Notice I'm on the bottom part next to Wyatt. We were the late joiners. I had to think about it, and I had to think about everybody involved. I had to think about everybody speaking, and I had to sit there, and I had to make a decision for myself and say, do I want to be part of this? Am I going to let the little things that bother me keep me out of this, or do I want to be a part of something special and try to get some attention to stopping World War III, to rage against the war machine that won't stop and is not going to stop? They're eyeing Cuba next. You know what I'm saying? I mean, look what they're doing. Billions of dollars are there. People are dying every day, slaughtered. So I made the decision that despite I didn't like everything or everyone in it, to say, hey, no, I'm going to put aside my grievances, my differences, and I'm going to go speak at this rally. And that's where I'm at, guys. If you can't accept it, I'm sorry. That's where I'm at. But I've already done this. And you should assume that too. And like I said, if you don't like the rally, don't go. If you don't like somebody speaking, don't listen to him or her. For her, right? Him or her. Because there's a couple people out there, you know what I'm saying? Go throw your own thing. And it's just that. and we love you. Thank you for watching. Fam,
Right.
that's it. Let's get on out of here. You won't be around tomorrow. You got something going on. I'll probably have a little something going on. So join us tomorrow.
Well, and what the F is going on in Latin America, Terry?
Oh, let me go get that
is
real
gonna
quick while
be-
you talk about it.
Yeah.
Please. Okay.
Well, Terry's just in Peru. She's gonna give us the latest updates. So she's there right now. It's thanking Terry for being able to go to Peru right now. And really reporting from there. So there'll be a special program at 7 Eastern, I believe. It is 7 Eastern, and yeah.
I got it right here, fam. Let me put it on up. Yeah, we love Terry Mattson. And that's the thing, too. All right, so people complain, oh, my God, Terry Mattson, she's code pink.
Not anymore.
Terry's she is, but she's always had her own voice. She's always been able to speak what she wants to say.
No, she left Code Pink, fam. She
Completely?
left Code Pink.
Are you sure?
Yeah, no.
She's not going
As far
from
as
the
I
Code
know.
Pink website?
No.
Maybe
I mean,
she's
no.
not.
They're putting it on Code Pink, but it's not the main.
It's out there. I mean,
yeah.
it's you can watch it live at the Combo Couch on our YouTube at Code Pink Action. They're still using the YouTube, and at popularresistance.org. That's Margaret Flowers, Kevin Zeese's old outlet before he left us. God rest his soul. This week, what the F is going on in Latin America? What the F is going on in Latin America? And
Yeah.
great
You
insight.
can watch it in all these platforms. Yeah, you can watch it on all those platforms. Yeah.
And the Caribbean
Anyway.
is in Peru participating on human rights delegation. And that's on tonight. Well, is that next week? She's saying next week, fam.
Oh, is it next week?
Next
okay,
week, February 16th. A
I'll put the wrong
conversation
date.
with human rights activists returning from Peru. Watch live on the Combo Couch. I guess she's going to take off today and maybe come back tomorrow, unless she has another one that I missed that she's doing today. But
all right, so
Thursday nights. Yeah.
Thursday nights next week. Sorry, guys, looked at the date wrong. Get my dates confused. I don't even know what day it is. But why are you looking at me like that?
I'm not saying
anyway,
anything.
guys. You don't have to say anything.
What do I have to say?
Your face says everything.
What does my face say?
All right, guys. Much love. That's it for today. Convo out.
That's it. See you tomorrow.